temples and tombs, and figures for your rooms. Here's your look at the brand new Hasbro Indiana Jones The Adventure Series Build an Artifact Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones embarks on an adventure to find the lost Ark of the Covenant, facing unsurmountable odds and opposed by notorious villains. Kids and collectors alike can imagine the adventures of Indiana Jones with figures from the Indiana Jones Adventure series. With exquisite features and decoration, this series unearths the quality and realism that Indiana Jones devotees love. The Adventure series includes figures and role-playing items, plus the 40-plus-year legacy of the adventures of Indiana Jones. Before we embark on a brand new adventure and look at some brand new Indiana Jones figures, let me first thank the folks over at Hasbro that did provide this sample of the brand new Adventure series. And through the next series of reviews, we're going to be building the Ark of the Covenant. That sounds really exciting. I'm going to grab the tape measure though either way, and let's measure off to the top of Indiana Jones. Now his hat is not removable, so we're going to include that of course with the figure's height. Indiana Jones from the Adventure series stands 6 inches in height, or the figure is going to be about 15 centimeters tall. To the figure's credit, Indiana Jones comes with quite a lot of things. Now, of course, this is going to be the start of our Build an Artifact series. I just want to actually bring in the cardboard tray so you guys can actually see. We get this top part of the Ark of Covenant. And, of course, through the series of reviews that are going to follow after Indiana Jones, we're going to be slowly through that building the Ark. Can't wait for that. I'm going to move that to the side. One thing I will want to say, too, is that this is all like package-friendly material that they're using to package all of the accessories that come included with Indiana Jones. Some of the baggies, for example, you want to just make sure that everything is emptied out there. I almost threw this out before realizing I left the fist behind. Don't leave any accessories behind, whatever you do. If anything, just check the contents, look inside the bag before you actually discard it. Let's look at the accessories that come included with Indiana Jones. First of which, the figure comes included with these two pieces of the Ark. These are, of course, the parts that are going to sit on top of what will be the lid. The lid will then remove and unleash evil. It's going to melt everybody's faces. But in the meantime, though, these look quite good for what they are. Nicely molded here in gold plastic. Of course, be careful not to lose these, because, of course, you will want to use these then to build the rest of the Ark that we will be looking at in the upcoming reviews. The figure also comes included, I love this touch, that the figure also comes included with the, I think it's the Chapapoyan? I think that's how you pronounce it, Chapapoyan fertility idol. Most people just usually call it the golden idol. You can see that this is what he has actually at the beginning of the movie. He puts down again the sand that he thinks is of weighted value, and then goes to remove the idol. And of course, I don't want to say hilarity ensues, but a big giant boulder chases him along the way. Luckily, you'll be happy to know that no boulder comes included with Indiana Jones. Could you imagine the size of it? Probably about the size of a bowling ball. For what it is, the golden idol is nicely detailed. You can see it's molded in the same similar gold of plastic that came included with the artifacts, the Ark parts that we will be building in the next series of reviews. So again, it's a nice little artifact that comes included with this. It does somewhat fit into his hands. He also does come included with a hand that not really is best suited for holding the little tiny idol, but you can kind of wedge it in between his fingers. Again, there's not really a hand that's designated specifically for holding the idol. If anything, you just want to have it bouncing in his hand and just hope nobody lets out a big old sneeze and blows the idol to kingdom come. Speaking of hands, though, the figure comes included with a series of interchangeable hands. Some of the hands definitely more suited for holding, like, for example, the whip. Other hands, for example, better holded for, like, the gun, better for holding the gun. He also actually has a specific hand with a trigger-firing finger. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. And, of course, Indiana Jones is also all about the fisticuffs, so you can also give him some closed fist punching hands as well, if you prefer. The figure also comes included with a tiny little pistol. I feel, if anything, if I could offer criticism, is the fact that the pistol seems very small. Small, especially when you get into his hands. We're going to go and stick with this hand, simply just because this one's better suited for holding the pistol. I'm going to fit that as best as we can get in there. And you can see, like, the trigger firing finger lines up rather nicely to the trigger. But I do feel like the pistol's too small. Looks a little too small. It does, though. One good thing about it is that you can take it out of Indiana's hands, and he does actually have a little holster there on the sides of his leg. Just open this up. Careful not to drop it, whatever you do. And just put the pistol, I keep calling it a pistol, just put the gun in his hand, put it in the holster, I should say, and then fold it up. The problem with this is anytime you get soft plastic, it never really closes properly. Even like when you eventually get the gun holstered in there, it does an okay job, but this snap, this part right here, see the little clip? that never fits properly into the hole. It fits okay if the gun's not in there, but as soon as you put the gun in there, this never really wants to close properly. That's as best as I can really get it for right now. You may also notice on the adjacent side of the figure's body also has a secondary one of these. That's because the figure also comes included with 2 variations of whip. Get him to stand for right now. He has a whip that you can unravel, and this is perfect for one if you want to have him actually with a whip in his hand. My preferred way, I think, of displaying Indiana Jones. If you, though, prefer to have your whip more rolled up, there's also this variation of it as well, that you can then take your figure and just move the little satchel patch that pack that he has on the side there, and you just take this, and you're supposed to fit this around here. And then again, you're dealing with these tiny little pegs that for all intents and purposes are supposed to fit into this hole in his belt, but they never do. Just because, again, like the softer plastic, there's no way, really, if it was a harder plastic, that'd be one thing. But because you're dealing with softer plastic, it never properly fits and stays in the hole. I suppose if you wanted to, you could just permanently attach it, but then you're always going to have the whip on the side of Indiana's leg. So we're going to remove that right now. It's the only thing, unfortunately, when it comes to these accessories. It's fine and it's good to actually have these things being something that you could attach, but again, like they never really close properly. And that's always the thing that you have to deal with when you're dealing with softer plastic. Anyways, getting a closer look at Indiana Jones. Let's just get the pack out of his... Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Let's just move that down a little bit there on the side of his body. Getting a closer look at Indiana Jones. Short of the fact he doesn't actually have a removable hat. It's not a bad likeness, all things said. I mean, like, it looks close enough like, I feel, like Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford. A younger, obviously, Harrison Ford. If anything, I would say one thing. His face looks really dirty. I mean, when you look at the rest of his body, his clothes still seem pretty clean. He doesn't have stains or sweat or dirt or anything else that would have settled on the fabric. And he doesn't have it anywhere on his pants, and yet he looks excessively sweaty and dirty in the face. I think the likeness is there, but I almost feel like he looks a little too sweaty, a little too dirty, if anything. Now, you could argue the point when it comes to Indiana Jones. He is, of course, going through tombs. This guy's never getting a chance to really wash his face. So maybe, yeah, it could be a little bit sweatier, it could be a little bit dirty, but it does, I feel like they added maybe too much of a wash on top of the skin tone, that it does make him look a little grimier. Again, like the hat is a softer plastic that they would have used. You cannot remove it. No matter how many times you really want to remove it, you can't take it off. Then, of course, he does have himself the jacket that he always wears. Now, he does have one thing. He does have this little satchel pouch that he always carries around with him. You could technically remove it, but it's really hard to take it off. You have to kind of slide it over top of his head, and then you have to kind of then slide it down the inside of his jacket. Or again, you just kind of, you want to really like lift the jacket up just a little bit so that the strap sits underneath that, so it's not always rubbing in front of his face. Then down below, of course, we've already looked at the fact that jacket. Now, the thing about the jacket, too, is you can also see as well, like the arms are always going to be jacket. So even though it looks like you could probably remove the coat, you're only going to then ultimately still deal with the brown plastic sleeves underneath it. You can even also see underneath the coat how that's still brown plastic, even in the shoulder joints. The lower legs, he does have 2 belts off, after all. I mean, one belt is the one that's actually keeping his pants on. The other belt is the thing that's actually holding the holster. And again, I just can't get the peg all the way in there. Just can't get it. Just can't get it. His lower pants, sort of like khaki pants, are nicely sculpted here as well. We're going to get down to the articulation of Indiana Jones in a moment. And of course, he does also have himself his hiking shoes. Peg holes on the undersides of his feet, although none of these figures actually do come included with accessories. But overall, not a bad looking Indiana Jones. The only thing I would really say, sculpt I think is there, but I think it almost detracts a little bit from the sculpt when you add so much of this excessive wash over top of his face. Am I the only one that thinks that? Let me know down below in the comments section. For the articulation on Indiana Jones, his head is going to be on a ball joint, so you can rotate the head all the way around. You have the head looking up to about that far. You can also as well bring the head down too, and you can rock the head back and forth in Indiana Jones. As for shoulders, while I did have a harder time actually to move the shoulders out, move the arms out, eventually I just put a little more pressure, probably too much pressure, and eventually, like, I just think that the shoulders on mine were just a little on the tighter side. Once those free up, you can actually get the arms to about 90 degrees. You can take those arms and rotate them all the way around. That's on both sides, by the way. Figure does also have a single hinge in the elbow, but at least the forearm does allow to rotate back and forth. The hands also, you can take and rotate all the way around. The upper torso, I wouldn't even say upper torso, it's basically the whole torso, sits on a ball joint, so you can rotate all the way around. Legs do split on Indiana Jones. You can see, once again, they're using ball joints on the insides of the thighs. Figure does have 3/4 of the way up the thigh swivel cuts, so you can rotate the thigh back and forth this way. The figure only sadly has a single hinge in the knee, but that's still more than enough. Gives at least an opportunity for the lower leg to rotate back and forth. And Indiana Jones does also have foot articulation up and down this way and back and forth this way as well. all in all, good looking Indiana Jones. I'm glad, even though technically we're not anywhere close to building ourselves the arc, we still have a long way really to go. I'm glad I actually started the reviews with Indiana Jones. I mean, obviously its namesake, the movie is named after him after all. I did want to start the reviews at least with looking at Indiana Jones. And of course, through the other reviews that we will eventually get a look at, we're going to add on to what we have started with and eventually build ourselves the Ark of Covenants. Let's not get this guy to fall in the process. The only other things I would also say about this figure, while the figure does deliver a pretty good looking Indiana Jones overall, again, like when it comes to his accessories, I'm likely only going to be displaying him with the whip in his hand. I really wish that there was a proper way to store the gun, as small as it may be. It doesn't really properly sit in the holster. Yeah, it sits in the holster, but to actually get the holster closed, that's another thing altogether. And wrapping up things here in final looks with Indiana Jones from the brand new Adventure series, I've got him displayed with the Cha-Cha Point fertility idol, or golden idol, right by his feet. That's one thing I do wish that Hasbro could have included with Indiana Jones. It's kind of hard to say that because he already comes with so much already, and he comes to include with the parts for the Ark, but I do wish that they could have actually included the little stand, just something again that you could have put the golden idol on top of without actually putting it in his hand. There's really no other place to store the Cha-Cha Point fertility idol, so I kind of wish that they could have included that. But all the other things that they include along with Indiana, nice touches. 2 different types of whip. One whip, of course, that can wrap around his belt. Not so successful, unfortunately, as you saw in this review. Softer plastic, I gotta say, just never really works when it comes to him holstering. And that's not just Indiana Jones, that's across the board. Anytime you get soft plastic that for all intents and purposes is supposed to wrap around something and be holstered on someone's belt, never works. The plastic is way too soft. So at least there is a place to store the gun, as small as it may be. I actually didn't take the time to put the gun into his holster, but there's at least that compartment space to store some firepower if you didn't want to have it displayed in Indiana Jones's hands. For me, I'm going to default displaying this figure with whip obviously in his hand. You think of Indiana Jones, I think of Indiana Jones, I think of him right away with whip in hand. Nice overall looking figure, and I'm super excited to start building the rest of the Ark. I know we really don't have a lot to really work with. We kind of have those 2 kind of sphinx shapes that are sitting on top of the lid. We're going to be making, of course, more progressive progress with the future figures that we're going to be looking at from the Adventure series. Once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Hasbro that did provide this sample of the brand new Indiana Jones Adventure series. This was Indiana Jones from the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Maybe for a video question, I can throw it out to you, the viewing audience. Let me know down below in the comments section. What is your favorite Indiana Jones movie? I wonder how many people will actually say Temple of Doom. I like Temple of Doom. It's not my favorite Indiana Jones, but I don't think it's a horrible movie. What is your favorite Indiana Jones? Let me know down below in the comments section. And as well, if you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and certainly on board to see the rest of the Adventure series Indiana Jones, then make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.